Hi everyone, my name's Freya, and today I'm going to be talking about my top tips for having a study group. Specifically, I'll give examples that I found helpful for my study group while studying for my specialty exams for pediatrics, but a lot of it would be very relevant to any kind of study group that you're forming. My couple of quick points about who to get in your study group would be making sure that you're all aligned in what you actually want to get out of the study group. So, for example, some people might want a study group with people who might be a little bit competitive and keep them motivated, whereas some people that's actually super counterproductive. And I'm probably more in the camp of people who want a study group for the sense of community and support, and there's no dumb questions here, let's work it out together, and the kumbaya, let's all hold hands kind of vibe. So I think really important to establish early on what everyone wants from a study group, and it'll save you a lot of heartache later. The other quick point I'll make on your study group is just about the number of people you're going to have in the study group. Anecdotally, people seem to have 4 to 5 for the BPT written exam that I was studying for, and I think that's a pretty good number because once you're hitting more than 6, it's going to be next to impossible to organise a study group time that everyone can attend. So if you're doing weekly sessions, for example, and you've got 7 full-time shift working doctors, you're dreaming if you think you can find a time each week where that'll work. The other thing is if there's too few people in your study group, then you might lose a little bit of that breadth of experience, people that have done certain subspecialties, people that brains just work really well for certain things. The other thing is life happens. People are people and humans, and not everyone who starts out thinking that they're going to sit the exam at a certain time will actually sit the exam at that time. And having a little bit of buffer and not too few people will mean that even if 1 or 2 decide to defer and do it at a later date, you're still going to have some people to study with right until the end. Scheduling your sessions, as I alluded to before, is a big one, and my study group used a poll, like an online poll, and it was really helpful. It was free. It was called Zoyondo or something, and we essentially would just take it in turns to make the poll, and you'd do maybe 2 weeks in the future, do morning, afternoon, evening for every day, and then everyone just fills in yes, no, maybe could make it work for each of the times, and then you just look at it and see which time session works best for the most people. Being mindful a little bit of who is not able to come to each of the sessions as they happen, and if it's the same person because they've got a horrible roster and they're always on evenings and the study group tends to happen in the evenings because that tends to suit the most people, then maybe be mindful of that for the next couple of sessions, that person can definitely come, and it's the person who has a perfect unicorn job that's Monday to Friday, day shifts. Maybe we'll miss a couple because we'll have a few in the morning that can suit the other people. For the sessions themselves, we had 2 types of sessions. So we had the in-person and the online. The in-person was really nice because we would go to someone's house, they would either cook a meal or we would just order takeaway, and we'd eat that, have a chit chat, debrief about our days, and then get into the study. The other one, Zooms, were great because you can use any platform. We use Zoom and got a Zoom Pro membership, but any kind of online video that you can share your screen with on your laptop and things would work fine. And they were really great because you could do it from the convenience of your home. It was fine if you were on a rural rotation, so not in the city. And it was just less effort. You're not commuting half an hour, 45 minutes to someone's place in peak hour to go to the study session. And I think towards the end, we did slightly more sessions like that, but both of them had their benefits. The social connection in particular from the in-person I found really helpful. The hybrid sessions, so when some people could come in person, so went in person, and some people were online at the same time. I mean, we've all learnt by now they don't work that well. It's possible to see if it works for your group, but I personally prefer in-person for everyone or online for everyone. For the actual sessions themselves, we mixed it up a little bit throughout the year as to what we actually did, but in general, we would prepare answers to previous questions before the session, and often we would allocate a certain number to each person, different questions, and then in the session you present the question, the others in the group would have a think about the answer, and then you would talk through your working and what the actual answer was. We did this a lot at the start. Towards the end, we pivoted a little bit because if you ask around, so many people have done this, and there's so many past questions that people have already worked out their explained answer to. And I actually think, bang for buck, you're better off using these pre-made explanations that people have done and everyone whizzing through all the questions before the session, and then again at the session going through it with the pre-made explanations. And if anyone says, oh, actually I got a different answer to that one, to what this other person did a couple of years ago, then you dive more into it then and say how you worked out your answer to that, if that makes sense. Personally, I think that was a little bit more of an efficient use of your time. And that's like a lot of these exam things. So many people have done them before that there are so many resources. Notes, for example, it's not a very efficient way of learning. So if you can find someone else's notes pre-written, I think that's more helpful. In between sessions, one of the most valuable resources actually from the entire study group, and one of the most helpful things that I found, was the WhatsApp group that we had. So we ended up actually having 2 WhatsApp groups. We had one that was scheduling the sessions, memes, complaining, the usual. And then the other one was our resources WhatsApp group. So if we, say, found a really great graphic to explain a certain condition, or we found a really good YouTube video or a really good podcast or whatever, we'd put that in the group, and then you've essentially got this great resource that on the weekend when you're wanting to mix up your study a bit, you just flick through and watch the YouTube video or listen to the podcast episode when you're driving that someone suggested earlier in the week. And that was super. That was kind of worth its weight in gold, really. And generally on that, share everything, no competition, no gatekeeping. These are your people that are getting you through the exam, and they're probably going to be your friends for life because you almost trauma bond with everyone because it's a stressful time. And I didn't even know half the people in my group. We were essentially 2 smaller groups that joined together to become a bigger group, and now they're amongst my best friends in the whole wide world. That's probably been the big take-home benefit of having the study group, is the friendships you make. Not to sound corny. On that note, I'm always more efficient when I'm studying by myself and I have my own systems, my flashcards and things like that. But I would still recommend having a study group for the camaraderie and the community. And, it's a long slog, it's hard work, and having a good group of people around you is what gets you through.